Hey guys, Don Durrett, Gold Stock Data. I'm going to go over my favorites list, which is up to 81 stocks. So this will be a long one, but it's a 3-day weekend. It seems like things are slow, so you probably have some time. Um, I'm thinking about how I want to go over these. So there's 80 names. I want to speed it up somewhat. I think I think we need to group it. So let's sort by category. I think we'll do the producers first, and maybe we can do them fairly quickly. Um, well, actually, we have three options. We can do the three explorers. Maybe we can do them in this order. So we have three optionality plays. We have Tudor Gold, Free Gold Ventures, and Banyan. So these are all trading, $10 an ounce in the ground. So we said they're just pure optionality plays. So there's only three of them. Pretty pretty rare. So I took Southern Silver off. Um, I think these gold plays are a little better. So you can see I have them. I don't have Banyan as a solid five bagger. I think they might sell early, but I have Free Gold and Tudor. I think they're going to hold out for that five bagger. But but yeah, they're pure optionality. And then we have the developers, which I need to talk more about those. I think I'll do the developers last. Maybe skip those. Maybe we'll work backwards. I'm going to go to the producers here. So I want to do the producers fairly quickly. So we have a group of majors. So I do a major. I want to change major to 4 billion. So these are just about majors. I have them at majors, but I'm going to start using 4 billion as the major. So these are all emerging major, these two. So one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. So we have nine majors here. B2 Gold, you know, million ounce producer, a lot of free cash flow. They have their largest mine's in Mali, but it's trading very, very cheaply. I have them at a three multiple. Equinox, they have the deal they're doing with Caliber, which is supposed to vote next week on that. So if that closes, that's huge for Equinox. Fresnillo, 50 million ounce silver producer, pretty solid. Endeavor Mining's in Africa, um, adds risk there, and then that's why it's so cheap. And then you have El Dorado, Turkey and Greece, building the Scori's mine, very cheap. And then IM Gold, real nice turnaround story, and it really hasn't gotten any value. And you have Pan American Silver, and then Hecla, Coeur, the Mormons, First Majestic, SSR Mining. They just did the Cripple Creek deal, and I like that deal. I think that they'll be able to restart their mine in Turkey, Koppler. So I like that a lot. I think that's all. I think the next one's West Gold, which I think is an emerging major. Yeah. So now we're at the emerging majors. And we just have First Majestic and SSR, and then West Gold. They've acquired Aurora. I have them as an A, which is pretty impressive for emerging major. But I like their properties, like their management team. Um, Now we're getting into the mid-tier producers. So I like to be overweight producers. So we have a bunch of these mid-tiers. We can go through them fairly quickly. I only need to talk about them if there's some unknowns. So we have Genesis. They have a ton of silver in Western Australia. I think 18 million ounces. Um, I guess these mid tiers. Let's see how far down they go. They go all the way down to Discovery, and now we can go back up. West Gold, Genesis. Um, I want to look at. We'll go by multiple. Um, Genesis. Uh, Growth story in Western Australia. It's on my Aussie 8 list. Then we have Guanajuato, amazingly cheap at 10, but they're not generating a lot of cash. So they're trying to get, I think, a 4 million ounce producer. Key to Guanajuato is the price of silver. We need silver to get to at least 35 before they get healthy. So it's kind of a high risk stock, $30 silver, 32, because they're not generating a lot of free cash flow and they could dilute us, but they get healthy around 35 and then they have a ton of leverage. Gold Road, another Australian stock. A lot of these Aussies are like five, so they're like a nine, not super cheap. But I'm all about reducing my risk, my location risk. So I think I want to own the Aussie 8. Gold Road's on there. It's strong um, Aussie mid tiers. Galliano, they're in Ghana, I believe, um, trading at a very low multiple, two. So Galliano is, some people are going to ignore it because it's in Africa. So they're in Ghana. Ghana historically has been fairly safe, but they just took away a mine from Gold Fields, which makes me nervous. But I like the fact that Galliano's costs are actually going to drop over the next. They say that they're going to drop every year from 26 to 29. So um, uh, it's it's kind of an underrated radar stock, I think. They're going to be generating a lot of free cash flow. Look at their balance sheet. They have no debt, 120 million in cash, generating a lot of free cash flow, high insiders. It's like I said, it's kind of under the radar. Adriatic, we're waiting for them to um, ramp up production. So Q4 they were like 1.3, and we need them to get to uh, 3 million ounces a quarter. And so I think it's going to take them two more quarters to show us that they're going to hit their number. If they hit their number, they're very cheap. So Adriatic's exciting, but we're kind of running the gauntlet here, making sure they hit their targets. K92, very conservative management team. They haven't attempted to, acquire another company. They're very content just to keep growing production. Their head grade has been very consistent for the last 3, 4, 5 years. So it's just kind of a solid number. Jaguar, they had a tailings, their tailings uh, stack. They had a landslide and they've cleaned it up, but I think there's still more cleanup to go. And they're trying to get that back into production this year, Q4. We don't know the exact cost. But I'm a big fan of Jaguar because if you look at its valuation, $170 million, this is a growth story. They're not producing very much, but they're going to double production. They have two mills that are only at 50% capacity. So if they fill back both of those mills up, they go to 150,000 ounces a year long term. That's $1 billion, I think, and they're currently at 169. So the key is, are they going to dilute us for this cleanup? I think they got fined, I think 50 to 70 million, but they're currently appealing it. But Brazil said that they only have to pay them back on a monthly basis. So that would be 12 million a year. Um, and so they could afford that, but they are appealing it. I don't think the fine will increase. But on the whole, I think I like Jaguar. Mag Silver, this is more of a royalty play, but I have it on here because I think it's a pretty solid three bagger and it could be a little better. But they're not spending money. Well, they're spending a little bit on exploration, but they're generating a lot of free cash flow. And they've just initiated a dividend, which will help underpin their valuation. $15 US. I think this thing could easily go to 60. So it's a pretty solid stock, but I'm not excited about it. I'm actually going to sell Mag. once we get to, say, $60 silver, somewhere in there, 60, 65. I'm not planning on holding mag for the long term. It'll be one of the first stocks I actually sell, I think. New Gold, their costs are coming down. It's really impressive. If you go and look at what their current ASIC is and what they expect the ASIC to be over the next 3 years, it's impressive. And I don't know why I don't have it on the top 25. I just have it as a top pick. I think it deserves to be on the top 25. Whenever I do these videos, I always end up realizing some of these things are wrong and they need to be updated or improved. But I think New Gold deserves to be on the top 25. By the way, the top 25 doesn't mean there's 25 stocks on there. It just means that they deserve to be there. So the top 25 has two criteria. Criteria number one is that they print with a five bagger upside at $4,000 gold or 100 silver, and they have a strong risk reward. As long as they check those two boxes, they make it to the top 25. So these ones that are blue, that means that blue means yes, they have the five bagger, but since they're not green, it means that the risk reward has some issues. It's not quite good enough risk reward for the top 25. I think I did that for New Gold because they had high cost, but that's all been resolved. They just bought New Afton back out. So I don't see a reason why it's not green. Um, Orla, they just did an acquisition, and I'm waiting to see kind of how that acquisition unfolds. But this one here is very close to being top 25 too. Ramelius, if they're not a five bagger, they're not going to be green. The only way you can be green is to be a possible. So grain lace is a little pricey, so that's why. But since I want to own all these Aussie eights because I think they're going to merge together, and I want to own them both when they merge. That's why these are on my must own list. Regis, another Aussie eight. I don't really need to talk about the Aussie eights unless there's something, going on with them as far as if they have a problem or if they're growing. But most of them are kind of boring, just hitting the number, steady growth. So I don't really need to talk about the Aussie eights. They're all very similar story, like Ramelius and Regis. I mean, I could talk a little bit about maybe the difference in the balance sheets or difference in the cost, but we want to get this video done in an hour, and we have 80 names to go through, so we can kind of go fast through some of the names, such as the Aussie 8. Resolute Mining, they're in West Africa. The risk is a little high, so I have them as a B minus and I have as a 2.5 because of West Africa. I think they're in Mali. And so this is one a lot of you will probably ignore, but it does have a 10 bagger upside. So it is on my must own. It's probably a marginal one on my must own, but it's a stock I think that could generate a lot of free cash flow. So I don't want to leave it off um, stocks that I own, and I want to be overweight producers, but that one is marginal. Silvercorp, anything that's green is good, right? Top 25. So Silvercorp, they have low cost. The cash cost is about $4, $5, something there. Um, and their ASIC, I did an ASIC on their last, it was really interesting. I did it using Grok. It calculated it for me at $8 ASIC, which I think is a little low. Even, I think their ASIC is more like 10 or 11, but that's still a lot of free cash flow. And so Silvercorp always has been really good at generating free cash flow. They've been able to maintain their low cash costs, but it's all production in China. We don't know, so are they going to get a high multiple? That's why it's not 3.5. I have it as three. But they're building two gold projects in Ecuador, which adds a little bit of risk. So they're pivoting away from gold. I mean, away from silver into gold. So their first project is a gold copper mine. Uh, Strong economics. I think they've started building it. If not, it's not that far out. And then their second mine is a low grade gold mine in Ecuador. I wish they would have pivoted more into silver. I wish they would have did New Pacific. I think they're going to acquire New Pacific. They own 28% of New Pacific, which would be a lot better fit for them. And so that's kind of once they pivot there. If they acquire New Pacific, I think they're going to really rip higher because that would really diversify them. Vault is another Aussie 8. West African Resources. Uh, they've done a really good job of executing. It's not a 10 bagger, but a solid 5 bagger. Don't have an minus B plus because it's in Africa. But I'm overweight Africa. Maybe I have West Africa. Maybe, a lot of people are going to ignore those, like Galliano, Resolute, West African. Um, I don't have Perseus, I don't think, on this list. G Mining, look at the size of this thing. It's up to 3 billion. They should be an emerging major. I have them as a mid-tier producer. Need to take notes as I go. They need to be changed to emerging major, and New Gold needs to be top 25. EM. Um, G Mining, they just keep growing. I looked, I think they're expecting to grow to 600,000 ounces after next year or the year after. I think it's 27. They're going to go to become a 600,000 ounce producer. So G Mining is a kind of a growth story, solid, uh, you know, solid management team. They know how to build mines quickly. And so another one, if you own Cabral, you also want to own G Mining because G Mining is right next door to Cabral. And so the odds are, if anybody's going to buy Cabral, it's going to be G Mining. And so that's one of the reasons I bought G Mining is because of that, because I own Cabral as well. And I don't want, if G Mining bought Cabral and I didn't own G Mining, I wouldn't be happy. Let's put it that way. So they do own it. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm all right. And I got into G Mining fairly early. I know I'm up significantly on that stock. It's really ripped higher. Hochschild, it's on the Mormons. I don't really need to talk about the Mormons, I don't think. They're just everybody knows those are the top 8 silver names. I won't talk about any of the Mormons unless there's something specific about it. But Hochschild, I think, is if they're on the top 8 Mormons, they're solid, like, kind of must-own silver names. Andean Precious Metals, they're very cheap. I mean, they're trading at like a 1 multiple, one's a little, I don't think it's a 1, but it's pretty crazy. I think less than 3. Oh, it's a 3. So yeah, I was wrong about the 1, but they're only trading at a 3 multiple. People aren't giving them credit for their free cash flow. So they're generating a lot of free cash flow. They have 70% ownership. Their project in California isn't a long life mine. They need to extend that at least a couple years, and that'll help them. But I do like it's one of those ones that's not, solid. It's black, it's not green, not blue, it's not solid, but it's got a lot of leverage and it makes the list. Capricorn, Aussie 8. Aris Mining, this is a stock that's mispriced because they're expanding production this year uh, at Segovia um, by 50%, starting, I think, in Q2. And then Marmato comes online next year. So they're going to increase production, like doubling production. They had 100,000 ounces of Segovia, and then I think it's like 170,000 ounces of Marmato. And they're going to jump to like 450,000 ounces next year. And they're valued at $1 billion. And that just makes 0 sense. So they're mispriced and they have a good balance sheet. They have low cost, trading to a 3 multiple. Here's their balance sheet, 347 cash, 251. Plus they have a nice pipeline. It's a very mispriced stock in my opinion. Um, and I like that. One of the things I've said is, for me, the ideal stock is a producer that's undervalued that has production growth coming. You get the combination of the revaluation higher, the multiple is going to expand, and then you get extra free cash flow as they grow production. And Eris fits that. Artemis is they bought the Blackwater project from New Gold. Then they've done a great job building it. They're going to have, I mean, the payback on this thing's like 1 year. They're going to pay down their debt, 350 million in debt. They're going to pay it back quickly. 40% ownership, so no one's going to come steal it from them. I think Artemis is going to buy another mine. So I'm impressed with how they built Blackwater. It's a big mine, a lot of free cash flow. So yeah, I'm excited about owning it. I think I own all of these, all 80 of these. That's why they're on my favorites list. These are my personal favorites, so I better own them. Um, Fortuna, I was disappointed when their I want to call it San Jose mine. It was their silver mine in Mexico, and I thought it was a long life, really good, high quality mine. And boom, it ran out of silver, and they sold it. I think this year, it really shocked me how quickly that mine came to an end, sudden end. And so now they don't produce very much silver. It's a gold mine. It used to be Fortuna Silver. Now they're just a pure gold miner, and they're in West Africa. And so they do have a good management team. I think they're going to be fine. I think they'll do well, but I want to see them diversify a little bit out of West Africa. I'd like to see them buy Abra Silver, which would be a perfect fit because Abra Silver's mine is right next to their mine down in Argentina. I mean, it's literally not that far away. So it'd be a really good fit for them. Um, I think Abra is going to sell to either Fortuna or Kinross. Kinross owns like 4%. Um, or they'll build it themselves. But I think that Fortuna or Kinross will kind of bid against each other. But I'd like to see them diversify out of West Africa. That would be good. Avino, um, so Avino was the cheapest silver miner. I had them as a 50 bagger. Now they're a 20 bagger. They have growth. I remember I mentioned that. So they're going to grow. This year, they're going to expand production. They're at 2.5 million. They're going to add a million. So they'll be a 3.5 million ounce producer by the end of this year. But it just keeps growing. Every year, they're going to add a million ounces. And then they also have a tailings project. So one year, they're going to add 2 million. So La Precocia, they're going to add a million a year for the next 4 years. And then they're going to also do the tailings. So that's 5 million ounces coming online. That's like 7.5. But yeah, they're going to be a 7 to 8 million ounce producer here in 4 years, and so they're not valued for that. So they still have that easy 10 bagger still in their back pocket. So they're still cheap, and they could do better than that 10 to 20 bagger. So somebody better acquire them pretty quick, or they're going to start getting pricey. Aya, another Mormon. I will mention Aya. They just increased production to 5 million ounces. So they're going to be generating free cash flow and they're going to have that leverage. But now they're going to start focusing on Boumadine and start figuring out how they're going to get Boumadine into production. But Boumadine is bigger than Zagounder. So Zagounder's at 5 million. I expect Zagounder to get to 6, 7 million. And Boumadine's bigger. So we're looking at 10 million ounces from Boumadine. So I'm thinking 17, 18 million ounce producer for Aya. So it's a growth story. We like growth stories. Right? It's in Morocco. And which I think has been fine. America's Gold and Silver. This one is under the radar. I call it the sleeper. And the reason why it's under the radar um, is because they've been a poor performer in the past, and so everybody thinks it's a dog. They did a poor job at Relief Canyon, which is on care and maintenance. But they brought in the CEO from Karora, who knows what he's doing, and he did a great job at Karora, and he's focused on Galena, and he's going to do a good job at Galena, and I think he's going to expand production from about 1 million ounces to 4 or 5 million just there. And then you also have Casala down in Mexico, which could probably get us in, another 2 million ounces. I mean, they could be a 5, 6, 7 million ounce silver producer. And I think that's kind of what his target is. They're not talking about Relief Canyon, but I think that once gold gets to, let's say, 34, $3,500, at that point, they can't ignore Relief Canyon because at 34, $3,500, Relief Canyon makes money. Relief Canyon was in production, so all they have to do is, do a little bit of scoping and restart that thing. So at a certain point, they have to acknowledge Relief Canyon. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if they sold it. Sometimes companies just like, I don't want to, I'm not happy with that mine. I don't want to touch it. Get rid of that thing. I wouldn't, they might sell it and then focus on another silver mine, buy another silver mine and focus on silver and rename their company to America's Silver Corp. It wouldn't shock me, right? But I think it's the sleeper. I really do. I think they're going to do well. I think if they get to 4 or 5 million out, I think they're going to be a 4 or 5 million ounce silver producer. Um, and so we'll see how they do. Caliber, that's the one with Equinox. So this one's going to go off the board. And Equinox is already here, so we're just going to add that. Bellevue, I actually took this off my Aussie 8 list because that would be Aussie 9. I removed it because they were having some problems. Um, but I think they're going to go right back on. I think it's going to be Aussie 9. But I want to see them kind of get going in the right direction. I think they're fine, but I did take it off. So right now it's the Aussie 8, but I like Bellevue's properties. I like their management team, but they did run into some problems and the stock price dropped. I think it's a good entry actually. Centerra, big fan of Centerra. This is another one that's totally under the radar, I believe. They're mining in Canada and in Turkey, and for some reason they're just getting valued very, very cheaply. They have like 600 million in cash. They have no debt, generating a lot of free cash flow. Um, if we look at their costs, so their multiples of a three, which is kind of crazy. If we look at their cost, I have them at 1350. So their ASIC is, oh, no, 1750, excuse me. They're not super cheap. 1750. So their ASIC's about 1350, 1300, I think. Um, so, you know, 1750. The one thing I've been seeing here on these costs is their costs have been going up. I think I'm going to keep an eye on them here in Q4. I like to update my cost on a quarterly basis. So we'll have to see what their net profits is in Q1. But we're at 3,200. We're looking at $1,500 margins. I don't think these margins are going to hold, but even if the margin drops to 1,350, it's still huge. But look at Dundee sitting here at an ASIC of 950 or 900 and margins of $2,000 an ounce. That's pretty crazy, right? I mean, $2,000 margins and all they have is a 5 multiple. So yeah, Dundee is um, well, I only have it as I don't have it as a 3.5, but as a 3. Um, Dundee's in Eastern Europe, and so they don't get the value. So it's trading at a 5 multiple. Um, I wish we had a little, like, squeeze it a little bit more. Um, Dundee, Endeavor. So we're about done here with the mid tiers. Endeavor Silver, that's a Mormon. One comment on Endeavor, they just did that deal down in Peru, and I didn't like it. They paid 145 million for 36 million ounces of silver, 2 million ounces of production. I don't even think it's going to double. Everybody thinks it's a strategic investment, so they're in Peru now. They're going to look around for another mine and they're going to grow. They're going to start focusing on Peru and Brazil, and this is a strategic move. But I wasn't excited about it. We'll see how it works out. I don't think it hurt the company, although they did do some share dilution, but it still has a lot of leverage. But Discovery Silver, they just closed their deal on, I think it was last week. They closed their deal for Porcupine. So now I looked at Porcupine. I thought they were going to be a 280,000 ounce producer this year, but the run rate is really only 200,000 this year. It doesn't really jump until next year, 250,000, I think, next year. And then the year after that, it jumps to 280. But they have a 4% NSR. So the way NSRs work is you have to pay gross revenue. So you actually lose money on that 4%. So you have to kind of subtract about 10% of your production. Um, but they can buy back two and a quarter of that, so they can get that NSR down to 2%, which I think they'll do at some point. But Discovery, but now that they're generating free cash flow, they can start putting cash on their balance sheet and get ready to finance that capex. Plus, if they can get their market cap up, their market cap is 1.6 billion. They're going to have to borrow, I don't know how much, maybe 400 million or something. They might have to 200 million uh, share dilution to pay for the capex at Cordero. So I'd like to get them up to 2 billion here if it's possible. If they could get up to 2 billion, then they'd have like a 10% dilution for Cordero. That would be ideal. Well, but the only way that's going to happen if the gold prices go higher. But if gold prices go higher before they have to finance Cordero, I'm hoping they can get to 2 billion before they have to finance the capex for Cordero. Then it's just a 10% dilution, which is no problem. But yeah, but I think we gave up a little bit by doing Porcupine. I think Discovery Silver to me was always a 20 bagger all day long, just on Cordero. But by buying Porcupine and giving a big chunk of they gave 8% of their company to Newmont. Newmont now owns 8% of the shares. So that took that little chunk out of it. That took it down to, and then they added some debt and they added a bunch of dilution. Um, forget it was 150 million in dilution, 175 million in share dilution or something like that. So that took us basically from a kind of a solid 20 bagger down to a kind of a solid 10 bagger. So we took a hit from Porcupine, but our risk reward improved. Plus, they became a shark, and so it made it easier to finance Cordero, which is good. On the whole, I'm okay with the deal. Go Gold. They're gonna, I think Los Ricos will get permitted this year, and they'll start building Los Ricos South, and this stock's gonna start ripping. I think this stock is really undervalued. $500 million for their two projects, highly undervalued. They're not getting the value that they really deserve. Los Ricos South and North are really good projects, and investors are just ignoring it. They're not that unusual though. A lot of these companies are being ignored. Okay, so that's all the mid-tier producers. So we're gonna start the late stage for last. So we're gonna do the emerging mid-tier producers, the small producers, and the near-term producers. We're gonna do those next. Then we'll do the late stage. Um, Okay, so Go Gold, just talked about Go Gold. Okay, so Talisker, it's going to take them a while to be an emerging producer. They're really a small producer now, and they're going to remain a small producer for perhaps 3 years. But I know they're going to eventually get there, but it's going to take them time. A mid-tier producer is 80,000 ounces. Talisker's not going to get to 80 anytime soon. They probably should be a small producer, but I'm expecting them to be a mid-tier. So I'm putting them as an emerging mid-tier. But if you can get an emerging mid-tier for 40, their price is a small producer, 47 million. But if you become a mid-tier, you're looking at 500 million plus. And so Talisker, they do have the gold to do it, but it's going to take them time. But at $3,000 gold, it really gives Talisker a lot of room for error. And that's what you need on these small producers. because you don't want them to dilute you into the ground. It usually takes money to become a mid-tier. They are going to dilute us. All of these emerging mid-tiers are probably going to dilute us. It's the mid-tiers that don't dilute you. So these are the emergings and the small producers and the near-term producers. These are the stocks that are dangerous as investors because they are going to dilute us, but we just hope they don't dilute us too significantly. So these are kind of the flip the coin. Do we get a 10 bag or do we not? Um, and I have Talisker NA insiders, which is always a bad sign. So they could get taken out. These ones that don't have high insiders, they tend to get taken out, which is could happen. Heliostar, I think, is going to become a 200,000 ounce producer. They have 30% insiders, so I hope they don't give it away. I think they know what they have. It's just going to be a steady growth story. So I like Heliostar a lot. I think the risk reward is definitely in our camp. I'm only showing 5 million in cash. That's not good, but they're producing about 40,000 ounces this year. So their balance sheet could improve. They don't have any debt. I'd like to see them, once they start generating free cash flow, I'd like to see them, go out there and borrow $50 million. They're definitely have to borrow money for Ana Paula, but I'd like to see them, I don't have a problem with putting on debt if you can pay it back fairly quickly. And I think Heliostar would be able to. Lion One is it's basically a bet that the mine can grow in size. I think it could get to 4 to 5 million. But right now it's only like 1 million, but we know they keep hitting, good drill holes. They're narrow vein. They're gonna have to figure out how to mine this thing. They're still experimenting. I did a video recently and talked to their CEO, and he wasn't really clear on their path forward. They're kind of trying to seat of the pants, trying to figure out how they're going to do this. And he kind of mentioned that. He's like, we're experimenting, we're trying this, we're trying that kind of thing. Um, and their head grade isn't as high as he wants it to be. So we need that. We need them to prove it. But line one, if they can grow that thing to 4 or 5 million, it's gonna be a very it's going to do extremely well. Insider ownership by Van A, but I think it's a little higher than 20%, but they might be vulnerable. SilverX, all we need is higher silver prices. They have the silver, 100, they have basically 100 million ounces of silver, 200 million silver equivalent. So they have a lot of base metals. I don't know if we're going to get 50% precious metals revenue. So it's kind of a 40/60, something like that. But they have a lot and they're valued very cheap. But I'm showing 1 million in cash, which isn't good. So this one is kind of a spec bet. But once silver gets to 35, I think this is this kind of stock that can double fairly quickly once people realize, the potential here. So yeah, it's a lot like Guanajuato. They're going to get healthy in a hurry if the price of silver gets higher. Denarius. So the Zancudo, I just put out a video. It came out today actually, interviewing the CEO of Denarius, and I really like him. I mean, he's the guy that started Gran Colombia and built Segovia and Marmato, and now he's moved on. Guess he wanted a challenge, and now he's moved on to create Denarius. And he's very excited about that Zancudo mine down in Colombia. He has really good margins. I think right now their AISC is about $1,400, and he thinks it's going to be 1 million ounces, high grade 8 grams. He thinks it's going to be multi-million ounce, and just the value alone, 100 million is cheap just for Zancudo if they can double the resource size. But we get the Lamero project in Spain looks pretty darn good. It's a polymetallic mine. Um, I don't know how much precious metals revenue we're going to get, but it's significant. And when you combine them both, um, I think Daenerys looks pretty good. It's a blue. I don't have it as a green yet. We need them to make a little bit more progress, but they're a company that could make it onto the top 25 list. Integra, I'm a big fan of Integra. I like what they did. They did kind of the same thing, the same story um, that Discovery Silver did. They acquired a producer, so they bought Argonaut's uh, Florida Canyon mine in Nevada. It has high cost, but at $3,000 gold, they're generating free cash flow. But they're going to use that to help them to develop their large project in Idaho. And I think it's a good combination. I think it's going to work. And hopefully this 20% insiders is enough to keep them, they'll get it to first pour. But I'm excited about Integra. Um, yeah, that some of these longer term development plays, but they're actually an emerging major now. So they turn the script by going into production. I don't really like that. Okay, so now we do small producers, and we only have two. So we have Impact Silver, and so we have one gold, one silver. So I'm not a big fan of small producers, but Impact, they're a company that it's been around a long time. They have a good management team. They actually have two very good properties. Their silver property, I forget how many hectares it is. It's big though. We're talking 50,000 acres or more, and it has 50 past producing mines. They have a lot of drill targets, but they don't waste money. If they had a bunch of money, they'd be drilling it like crazy. But they have 8 million in cash, so they do a good job of not getting it down to 1, 2 million. Um, and then they have another property that has both gold and zinc that they're drilling. They're excited about. So yeah, I just know from experience that if I don't own an impact, I'm going to regret it. Let's put it that way. Uh, Serato, they're trading at less than a one right now. So their market cap is 60 and their free cash flow is higher than that. I believe it is. And they're 55,000 ounces at about 1,000 ounce margins. So that's 55 million. And I think they're going to be able to expand the mine life. I think their mine life's like only 4 years, but I'm not really worried because management isn't worried. They're going to be able to find more. They're going to expand the mine life. But they just did a deal where they bought Ascendant, and Ascendant is a polymetallic mine in Portugal, which I liked. And I think that's a good combination. That should close here in May. And they didn't pay very much for it. I think 15% premium. But these small producers, small gold producers is risky, but they could turn into an emerging major fairly quickly, depending on how far out it's going to take them to build that project in Portugal. Okay. Near-term producers, we got four. There's probably another one if we get to this late stage. Um, Montage. This company's done well, up to $1 billion market cap, really strong management team, strong property, growing in size, a lot of gold, big capex. I think it's a 3-year build. They've already started on it, so it's a big mine. This is their first mine. It won't be their last mine, but the issue here is Africa. I think it's in Cody. So the issue is, are you comfortable in Western Africa? I've owned it for a long time. I've done well. I got in really early. I like the management team. I like the project, so I got in. Silver Storm, um, they should be in production this year. I have near-term production for Montez, but I think it's a 3-year build. So I need to change that. That needs to. I have it as near term because they're in construct. It's basically started construction. I'm going to leave it there. I was thinking of making a note and make it a late stage, but I'm going to leave it there because it's under construction. Silver Storm, this one is they're going to restart it this year. The reason why you own Silver Storm is not because they're going in production. It's because the San Diego project, which is in the same state in Mexico, and that's going to be where they're going to turn their attention to. Once they get this mine up and running, they're going to turn their attention to San Diego. And San Diego is a 100 million ounce silver project. And we're basically getting it for free. I mean, they're going to produce 2 to 3 million ounces of silver. I think two is way on the low side. Let's say 2.5 to 3.5 million ounces of silver equivalent. And that alone is worth a lot more than their market cap, which is at 50 million. And so, yeah, we're getting San Diego for free, the way I look at it. So I like that. And then Cisco Development, I have it as a near-term producer because the Trixie mine, they were mining it, and I think that one could easily come back online. I don't think they've started construction yet. I think they're still trying to finish their permitting of their Caribou project. I really like the Caribou project. Um, and 35% insider, so I don't think they're going to sell. And so I'm very excited about Cisco Development. I think it's going to be, it's really nice to have these single project mines in Canada. They're just going to be worth a lot of money. Skeena is another one that's, they're once they get their permits, they're going to start in construction. It's another one and you got West Red Lake Gold. They should be on here as a near-term producer. I'm, yeah. So did I just see it? Um, yeah. So I don't have West Red Lake Gold. That should be a near-term producer. They're I need to make a note on that. They're going to start producing in the next quarter, so they definitely. But um, yeah. So okay, Rio 2, they're under construction down in I believe it's Chile. Um, and I can't think his last name. The CEO's last name is Black. Can't think of his first name, but he knows what he's doing. He's a good CEO. And the key here is for them to get to phase two. If they can get to phase two, this thing has 10 bagger potential. So phase two is all about they need to come up with the water and they have to come up with more capex. But they have a lot of gold. So it's a matter of getting that phase two built. So you're not really buying it for phase one, you're buying it for phase two. There's a little bit of risk there. But I'm like I said, they have a good management team. I'm okay with it. Okay, so now these are these are our LS. We already did the PGs, so I don't need to change this anymore. So we have Stellar is it's a very solid project in Canada. It's going to take them some time to get it permitted. So it's a long-term bet, but it's a really good project, 30%, a lot of big mine. I like big development stories. The key is, it has to check all the boxes, these development stories. You want to make sure that, it's cheap, highly undervalued, you get at least a 10 bagger and they have a path to production. You believe in the management team. They have good insiders. Now, if you look at this list, every single one has insiders except for US Gold. But I think US Gold has them. Sometimes if it's under 20%, I won't put it down. But I don't think US Gold will get taken out before they get to first pour. And they're really close to near-term producer too. They're permitting. I think they go into construction next year. They're very close to being near-term producers. So I think I might switch US Gold over to near-term producers. So all my LSs will have one more down here, Investigator. Um, that one also. But most of these do have insiders, which is one of my check boxes, right? So you got location, you got quality of the property, the management team, path to production, and insiders. Um, Make sure they all check these boxes. So Stellar is a ways out. So it's not, ideally on the check boxes, we want them to be in construction within 3 years. And Stellar's kind of on the border of that. And SunGold, they're not there. SunGold is a bit of a spec bet because we don't have a path to production yet. I've been waiting for them to make progress. This is mainly an optionality play, but they consider themselves a developer. I really hold this as an optionality. I consider them an explorer, but they're marked as LS because they told me that was their plan. But I see it more as optionality, but will they sell it early? I mean, we're looking at 200 million plus ounces of silver equivalent with a market cap of 50 million. So it's highly undervalued. So that's why I own it. But it's definitely risky. I'm not happy with the progress they've made. Aftermath, um, Aftermath, they're calling it a manganese mine. I'm hoping that as silver prices get to $50, they start talking more about the silver. But on the whole, even if it's a manganese mine, it's going to be highly profitable with a lot of free cash flow. But Barangay has 130 million ounces of silver. I mean, it's got a lot of silver. So we'll see how they do that, how they decide to market it, how they decide to build it. But there's not that many 100 million plus projects, silver projects out there. So if there's a 100 million ounce silver project out there and it's cheap, I'm going to own it because there's just the optionality alone. U.S. Gold, they're very close to construction. It's a copper gold, excuse me, it's a gold copper project. The copper offsets make it very economic. Um, and we're getting this project in Nevada for free, which is where they're going to pivot to. They haven't started drilling it yet, but it's a big property, a good location. They're going to poke a lot of holes, and they could easily find something. If they don't, they'll go find another project. They have a good management team, but this is probably a 15-year. This project in Wyoming is probably a 15-year mine life, and so they're going to have a long time to get that second mine. I always say you make your money on your second one, but I I I think it's fairly cheap. I like the value of it, but we're betting on we don't the pipeline isn't really solid. We're waiting for that pipeline to kind of come to fruition. West Red Lake Gold, they're going to start production here in Q2. I'm very excited about it. I think that the Madsen mine is going to end up getting a lot bigger than people expect. It has a lot of high grade gold on it. It's just a matter of them, drilling it. So they're going to have all this free cash flow. They're going to be able to drill it. And I think Madsen's going to end up showing a lot of gold. I think it's going to be a lot bigger than people think. Plus the Rowan mine, we're kind of getting the Rowan mine for free. I think Rowan is going to give them at least an additional 50,000 ounces a year for 10 years plus. And all they have to do is truck the ore over to the mill. And so Rowan's about 2 years out. They have to permit it. It's going to take them about 2 years to permit Rowan, and then they're going to be able to truck the ore over. And that's not built into the price. And so, I think you throw Rowan in and they go to 150, probably, 120, 150,000 ounces a year. I think West Red Lake's going to end up being a 200,000 ounce producer. And so that's probably worth 2.5 billion. So that's basically a 10 bagger, which is kind of what I have it at. So I'm I'm excited about West Red Lake. West Vault, I'm tempted to take West Vault off of here. Um, I have it as a B plus four. It's 50 million, 70% ownership. My problem with it is I sent an email to the CEO and he just didn't seem excited about building this thing. I thought building it was their only choice for getting shareholder value. But he said that it's risky to build something. It's a lot, you know, the risk reward's better to sell the thing. Well, if they sell it, he's probably thinking about selling it for 150 million and getting a little over a one bagger, a one and a half bagger, and he's happy with that. Selling it for 150, 200 million. He's like, that's good. Um, that's a decent return, but this thing has 10 bagger written all over it if they build it. So I'm hoping that the board comes to their senses and realizes that selling is not really an option here. Build the thing. It's construction ready. The capex isn't really that high. So hopefully they build it. If they build it, like I said, it's definitely has 10 bagger potential if they build it. Vizsla, one of the better silver projects out there. Their PEA was off the charts. It, you know, it had a NAV of like 1.5 billion at current silver prices. And the capex was only 250 million. What's the NAV going to be at $50 silver? It's because they're going to produce about 16 million ounces, I think 15, 16 million ounces of silver equivalent, right out of the gate, and they're still finding more on that property. So, Vizsla and Go Gold and Discovery, those are the three best silver projects. You got Abra, and you got Boumadine. There's not that many. They're pretty rare, and so you got to own them. Sonora, they're waiting to get their permit. I think this thing it's less than a 1 year build or less. I think that's going to happen this year. I think they're going to go into construction by the end of the year. Market cap at 25 million, which is kind of silly cheap. Um, so I think, the property, they haven't drilled it out. I think it's going to grow in size, but Sonora's kind of under the radar. 1911 under the radar, 47 million. The True North mine was worth $1 billion in 2011. I think it'll be worth $1 billion again. I think history's going to rhyme. They might not get to 1 billion, but I think they might get close. 700, 800 million valuation on that True North mine. It's going to be interesting, but they're cheap here, totally under the radar. It's going to take them a couple years, though. It's not going to happen overnight. We're looking at about 2 years out. Maybe it could drag on, but I'm looking at it. I'm targeting about a 2 year restart on that. Keep an eye on it. Osgold, they're in Australia. Osgold and Rox Resources are both on here. They're very similar stories. They're both about 2 million. And Barton, I'm surprised they took Barton off of here. I think Barton probably deserves. Um, it's not quite as big as Osgold and Rocks. Those are my three Aussie late stage development. Skeena, 1.5 billion, but I still like it. It still prints about a five bagger. High grade open pit in British Columbia. Plus, they have two additional mines to build. The underground under Skeena, under their current pit, and then Snip. I think this is probably a 300,000 ounce producer. And we'll see what happens to that if they get bigger. Andean, a new company. This was the new, that was Argenta. Sorry. Andean, this is an under the radar one. Everybody thinks Andean precious metals, but Andean is a silver project, new company, um, fairly big silver project that most people aren't aware of. And we have Silver Tiger. They're waiting for their pit, so they're going to start off with gold open pit, and then they're going to pivot to underground high grade silver. And once they get their permit, they'll be in construction within 6 months, is my guess. And I'm excited about that. Rocks, I didn't mention Rocks and Osgold are kind of twins. 2 million plus development projects in Western Australia. Revival, they have three mines to build. I'm very excited about this play. They have the Merkur mine in Utah, and then they have an open pit and an underground in Idaho. So when they build all three of these mines, it's going to take some time. We're looking at a 3 to 4. This is a kind of a 3 to 4 year project. But at a certain point, this thing's going to rip. I mean, it's at 67 million, and they're going to be, 300,000 ounce producer after they build all three mines and good locations. So it always amazes me that they won't give Revival any value when you look at what they have and what they're going to do. But they're not that rare. I mean, we're seeing a lot of these companies that are highly, highly undervalued, and Revival is definitely in that group. Argenta is the next Frank Gustra project. He calls this his silver mine, and he wants a silver company, and he wants it to grow. And it is so cheap, 33 million. Um, and this thing has a nice path to production, and they're not going to sell. Yeah, Argenta and Revival, they both, it's interesting they're right next to each other. They're similar stories to me. Argenta's silver, Revival's gold, but they're both cheap. They're both heading down the path to production, and nobody will give them value now. It's like this is one of those ones where these companies are just totally mispriced. And if we buy them now, I think we're gonna get 10 baggers as long as silver gets to 50 and gold gets to 4,000. Next Gold, one of my favorite development plays. They have two projects in Canada and basically we're getting one for free. I mean, 110 million, they're both worth $1 billion. They both have NAVs of 1 billion at current gold prices. Goldsboro is probably going to be built first in Nova Scotia, and then their other one is in Ontario, might be in Quebec, one of those two. The Goliath project. They're both big projects. They're both 3 million ounce projects, and we're getting one of them for free. So yeah, I mean, I actually like Nick's goal better than these two, and I like these a lot. So amazing, amazing development stories. Investigator is a low grade project in Australia. It's a silver project. They've been having trouble. It hasn't been really doing anything, just been languishing. I mean, like we've got a $28 million market cap. But once silver gets to $40, I think Investigator will start going. It's these low silver prices. They're just not getting any love. They might have permit issues as well. So you have to take a look at that. Might have a permit. International Tower Hill. I'm a big fan of this project. I think they're going to build it. All we're waiting for is permits. At a certain point, this stock is going to rip. I mean, I think they have 12 million, 8 to 12 million ounces of gold. They have a lot of gold, economic, and they're just not getting any value. Um, I'm surprised it's showing 2 million in cash. I don't think that's right. I have to double check that. ITH, I don't, I don't know why. We're just about done here, so I wanted to check the balance sheet. 2 million, huh? I've never seen their cash that low. Um, So the last one is Challenger. So, but Tower Hill, the one thing that's nice about Tower Hill is they have strong insiders, 50%. They've been permitting this thing. Seems like they've been permitting it for 10 years, but now they're close. It's in Alaska. It's in a good location. It will get permitted. It will get built. The only thing that the red flag here is how much how do they finance the capex? How much do they dilute us? Because they only have an 86 million. So it's going to be hard for them to finance this. Do they need a partner to finance it? Um, oh, I'm sorry, 200 million. Where's the market cap here? 133. That was last analysis. 133 million um, market cap. But the capex on this thing, I believe it go back. I had it open. Let's check the capex. They have 13 million ounces of gold. The capex is 2 billion. And you have cost overruns, so nobody wants to touch it. So they're going to have to find a way to get a bank at their market cap. They've got 130 million market cap. And they're going to need to borrow what, 1.5 billion? Who's going to loan them the money? So I don't know. That's kind of scary. We need them to rip to 500 million so they can finance this thing. They, it's I don't know how they're gonna who's gonna how they're gonna do that. They're probably gonna have to do a streaming deal that's gonna be ugly. The streamers are like, yeah, hey, we'll give you all the money you want, but we want a big chunk of your production. So that's probably what's going to happen here. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in two streamers and finance $1 billion through streaming, another 500 million through a loan, and then 500 million through equity. That's probably how they're going to finance this thing, which would be ugly. So that adds risk for International Tower Hill. The last one on my list here is Challenger. So Challenger um, is they have two projects, copper gold, Ecuador. It's kind of under the radar, not a solid play per se, but I like their management team. They've been around a long time. They're thinking about splitting the company in half and doing a spin out. So that adds risk. So a lot of you are going to probably pass on Challenger. So those are my favorite. That's my favorite list. So that's we'll end it there. And I'll talk to you guys next time.